So I'm going to do an unplanned follow-up discussion to my previous talking about Doomsday Clock. This is the Absolute Edition. Huge, beautiful book. So I really enjoy stories that you can read over and over again and every time get something new out of it, learn a little bit more. If you read a story and it's just, okay, I got what I wanted out of it, and you're done, and you never pick it up again, and you just put it in a closet or in a long box or something, I don't feel like you've really gotten your money's worth. And I think the best writers for repeat reading would be like Alan Moore, Grant Morrison, and in this case, Jeff Johns with Doomsday Clock. Doomsday Clock has a lot of issues. I've probably read each comic. I know I wrote a review on Amazon, and I said in my review that that I'd read each comic a handful of times. So if a handful is 5, I'd read each one quite a few times. And I still had questions. I still was trying to figure out what in the world happened. And I've watched reviews, and they don't really get into the details, and maybe it's just they didn't do the kind of analysis I did. But I'm reading it through again. I'm most of the way through it, well over half, but the questions that I had remain. And now I have some new questions. So we'll see if in the, as I finish this up, because I'll probably do a third, at least one more analysis of the story, and we'll see where it goes, because I definitely want to do one once I finish the entire story to see if the questions were answered. So the main point of it, there's a lot of working pieces in this mini-series or maxi series, and so I'm kind of omitting like 90% of them, or a significant amount, and focusing on a few different things. The main issue in the DCU proper, is this thing called the Superman theory. This is the theory that the reason that the United States has 97% of the superheroes and supervillains is because they were manufactured. And this theory, there's a lot of evidence that it's true. And that seems to be the way that this is leaning, is that, and I mean, that would really shake up the DC universe if these heroes were created by the government. Not only were the heroes created, but the villains were created as foils for those heroes. But as far as I know, nothing ever happened with this. And it often seems like Jeff Johns kind of does his own thing. I really feel like, and maybe I'm just misreading it, because I am, at this point, a really casual reader. I used to read a lot more, but it seems like Scott Snyder has is directing all of the events and everything. And maybe maybe that's not true, but all these events that are going on right now and have been going on for like the last 5 years or so, I have no interest in. They seem, they're not interesting to me. This was interesting to me, but it really feels like nothing ever came of it. So my big question was, who is behind the Superman theory? So I took notes, and at one point, Lois Lane says she believes she knows who's behind the Superman theory. And then later on, we see her speaking to Lex Luthor. And that is her guess, except it's clearly not Lex Luthor, or at least Lex Luthor denies it. And my assumption has been that it was not Lex Luthor. What I wrote in my reviews was that I believed that what happened was that that Ozymandias was behind the Superman theory. But that didn't make sense, because the Superman theory was going on already when he arrived in the main DC universe. So then I had this theory that he used a time machine to go back in time, but that had all sorts of problems. Like, where did he get a time machine from? It really was never spelled out. He was operating with Saturn Girl, and Saturn Girl would theoretically have access to a time machine, but I don't remember him ever saying it. And also, where would he get the idea for the Superman theory? Because the Superman theory was already going on. So does that mean he took this idea, brought it back, and then enacted it in the past? And how did he do that? And then it's like, well, where did the idea originally come from? Because it's like he took it from nowhere, as if nobody came up with it. He enacted it, but it was already going on. So I had all sorts of questions. So I tried to track that particular story arc. And now Rorschach 2, a fellow named Reggie, was put into Arkham Asylum or tricked into it by Batman. And at this point, we see Saturn Girl there, and she refers to herself as, "I'm Jane Doe." And she said, "We need to get out of here before it's too late. I won't be around much longer." And in the previous times I read this, I never really paid that close attention to it. So we see him, the door's opening, a blue light, and then they're gone. And then in the next page, we see some security guards going through the hallway. So we assume that. But what I'd never noticed before was this right here, which is a photo of John Osterman, who prior to him becoming Dr. Manhattan, and a woman, I think it was the woman he was dating before that. I don't think it was Laurie, but I don't remember. But the point is that later in the story, we learned that Dr. Manhattan was kind of shedding these photographs, the same exact photograph, in different places, apparently inadvertently, which implies that it was Dr. Manhattan that somehow, but how would she know that Dr. Manhattan was going to teleport them out of there? So it doesn't really say. All I know is that the next time we see them, they are they've come across Johnny Thunder, who is trying to find Green Lantern's lantern. Okay, so how did they get there? Did Dr. Manhattan teleport them there? I don't know. There's also at one point a news report that says that has just a very brief mention that there was an escape at Arkham Asylum and that dozens were injured. Injured by what? The teleportation? Or did they fight their way out? I don't know, because it never shows how they got out. Now, later on, they mysteriously are now with Ozymandias. Again, it never spells out how they got there, how they found Ozymandias. But they're with him, and Saturn Girl says that she was sent here to cleanse the time stream of an unknown anomaly. Okay, now, you might be wondering, why is Saturn Girl here in Arkham Asylum? Now, Jeff Johns had mentioned this, not mentioned it, but shown it previously in The Button, where she's in an asylum. But I don't remember him ever saying why she was there or how she got there, why she was in an asylum. So there seems to be some question and a discussion about how Saturn Girl and Reggie, Rorschach 2, keep arriving at different places, and Ozymandias says something about, when it comes to Dr. Manhattan, there are no coincidences. So it kind of implies to me that Dr. Manhattan is somehow directing them. But why? Why would he do that? We also know that Dr. Manhattan had somehow brought the comedian back to life, and he had directed him to kill Ozymandias' pet, Bubastis II. I think his name Bubastis II, something like that. Bubastis II was able to track Dr. Manhattan. He was a genetically engineered animal, and Ozymandias' plan was to use the Green Lantern's lantern along with Bubastis in order to pull Dr. Manhattan against his will. And it works. He's successful. So why did Dr. Manhattan want to kill Bubastis? To not allow Ozymandias to find him? I don't know why he would even need the help of the comedian. Just do it yourself. But if that was his goal, was to prevent Ozymandias from finding him, why did he seem to be helping Saturn Girl and Rorschach to find the lantern? What was the point here? When they finally do get Dr. Manhattan, and they're talking to him, and Dr. Manhattan is kind of going on, and at one point he says, "I'm in the middle of something." In the middle of what? Are you creating the Superman theory? And for what? Just for pure chaos? We know a couple things he does. He manipulates reality so that the Justice Society never exists. He also manipulates reality so the Legion of Superheroes never exist. For what purpose? Just for fun? So at one point, Reggie, or Rorschach 2, decides that Ozymandias has betrayed him. So he just leaves. And we see him send a letter to Lois Lane. Okay? And she opens up, and inside is a thumb drive. And the thumb drive contains sort of a 1940s newsreel of the Justice Society. And she says, "Who's the Justice Society?" Because the Justice Society has been removed from the timeline because of Dr. Manhattan. So my question is, okay, where did he get a thumb drive from? Where did he get a thumb drive with a newsreel on it? It certainly didn't come from the Watchmen universe, because the Justice Society never existed in the Watchmen universe. How would he have access to videos of the Justice Society, given that they apparently don't exist? And why would he send it to Lois Lane? What was the whole point? The next time we see Reggie, he's now homeless and living on the streets. And I don't remember now whether we see him again or if that's just the way he ends. So I have so many questions, and why is Dr. Manhattan manipulating reality? Just like to pass the time? So I'm hoping that if there really are no answers, then this is a very poorly plotted out story. And we'll see, because there are so many great moments in here. There's a lot of great characterization. I think Mannequin and Mime are great characters. I don't know that anyone else ever used them. Okay, so here he is putting the letter. There's Reggie putting the letter in there. And then he just kind of goes on the street, and then he's wearing a sign. So we'll see. We'll see. I've read this thing through so many times, and I'm hoping that there will be answers. And so I did at one point have sort of an epiphany where I was like, oh, wait a second. Ozymandias must have been going to the DCU prior, and that he was the one that set up the Superman theory. But then I said, no, I don't think that's true, because there's really no evidence. And I would think that he would say something like, secretly, or maybe in his thoughts, yeah, I've been coming back here. It kind of reminded me of when Alexander Luthor, when it turned out in, Infinite Crisis, that he had actually been going to the DCU. He had been escaping from their realm over and over again, and just nobody knew about it, and manipulating the universe. So I thought that, but then I was like, no, there's just no evidence that I've seen that he was. But if that was the case, he wouldn't need a time machine. He was just going there. But we'll see. I believe there is one mention of a time machine, but we never see an actual time machine or what he ever did with it. Okay, so there will be a part 3 and maybe more. So that is yet again Doomsday Clock Absolute Edition.